Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the Alpha Legion State of the Legion. I know what you're thinking, Z. This is disappointing. Normally you've got an army, arrayed out in front of you. Why don't you have an Alpha Legion? Well, I do. I've actually got about 20,000 points of Alpha Legion, but they're doing what they do best, and they're being really sneaky right now. In fact, I'm sorry, they're already behind you. This army is one that I don't care for them really as an army. As you can see, I don't have an army. I've never really got into their fluff. They're kind of these flip-floppy coward losers that I don't really, it's like dedicate to chaos or don't, and I'm a chaos player, so that's what I want. But the rules for them, incredible. I'd say this is probably it's not my favourite in terms of rules, the most powerful, I think, in terms of rules. Really shocking, it really shocked me when I started reading through this. Absolutely incredible. I thought it was great in 8th, and now in 9th, if anything, it's even better because the gameplay is so tactical now. Now it's a bit less of a sort of random. Initially, it was good because this kind of army helps you deal with the sort of random, maelstrom of war kind of cards that you got. But now in 9th, with the sort of secondary objectives and that sort of thing. It's incredible that, I don't think there's many armies out there that can do a better job of playing, tactically and in terms of sheer maneuverability and their ability to just cover the board, move around the board, go back and forth and make sure that you're really getting the secondaries that you want. It's incredible. So I might have a fair bit to say, we'll see, hopefully not too long for the video. We'll start with the Warlord traits like usual. I am Alphavius, that's the one from the Codex. It's a really fun one. You randomly generate another Warlord trait from the Chaos Space Marines Codex, so you could get a crappy one, but there's some really good ones in there too. So you could end up with a really good Warlord trait as well as this one. And basically what happens is each time this Warlord character is killed, you nominate another character in the army, and that one becomes the Warlord. So this meant a lot more in 8th edition than it does in 9th, because kill the Warlord, slay the Warlord. It's not a thing, like it was in 8th. This was really massively helpful in 8th because slay the Warlord was a big deal. It was like a whole, a whole edge you could get over your opponent. Doesn't really matter in 9th unless somebody specifically takes that secondary. So unfortunately, I don't think this, while it was good in 8th, I don't think there's much reason to take this in 9th. Just because there's really no reason to care that much if your Warlord is killed these days. So it's all right, but I think that it's lost a lot of what made it good since 8th. Clandestine. This is -1 to hit for shooting or combat, so that's really powerful. Now, obviously, this army list was a lot more powerful when you could stack hit modifiers. Unfortunately, now in 9th, you can't stack hit modifiers more than +1, or +2 if you were already -1 to make it +1. So a lot of the nasty power is a bit it's a bit neutered, it's a bit gone, but ultimately -1 to hit is still really good. And what it means is, while you can't stack all of these -1 to hit bonuses on one model, being able, you can now sort of spread them out, easier without worrying about like, oh, I should stack them on that one model, but I want to spread them out. Now you can just spread them out, so you can have -1 to hit on this guy, and there's like 50 other things to get -1 to hit later on. So you can really spread out and have quite a few -1s to hit on your army. And of course, I skipped ahead a bit, but if we just consider the Warlord, the Legion trait, which is -1 to hit from 12 inches away, pretty much your whole army, obviously apart from vehicles and things because chaos, but your infantry, mostly your whole army, will be -1 to hit from over 12 inches away anyway, so that's already a good spread of -1 to hit. Then you've got this on your Warlord potentially for within 12 inches and within close combat. It's really good. Headhunter, this one I love, it's great. I would probably take this one if I played Alpha Legion. I had a plan to do it, never really got to, but it's really great. This Warlord can target character units even if they're not the closest enemy unit. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by this Warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound in addition to any normal damage. So your character can shoot enemy characters and on hit rolls of 6 does 1 mortal wound. Now this is really good. The reason it's so good is because you can just take the Viper's Bite, which is a combi bolter. So you replace your Lord's combi bolter or your Terminator combi bolter or Biker combi bolter. I would take either one of those, because if you're a Terminator or a Bike, you're rapid firing all the time. So you would always get, in this case, the Viper's Bite is rapid fire 2. So if you were a Terminator, you'd always get 4 shots. Range 24, strength 5, AP -3, damage 2. Now that's incredible. If you combine this with Headhunter, you've got a character that can snipe other people's characters, 4 shots, mortal wounds on 6s, strength 5, AP -3, damage 2. This is absolutely perfect to just snipe away those annoying support characters if you're playing Space Marines and you've got those lieutenants, chapter ancients, librarians maybe, but really it's those lieutenants and chapter ancients that just stand there with innate buffs. Absolutely incredible. You can really just snipe people away with this. You've also got the Hydra's Teeth, which is a bolt weapon, any bolt weapon. The bolt weapon are granted the following abilities. Attacks made with this weapon hit automatically and wound on a 2+, unless it's a vehicle or titanic unit, and units don't receive the benefit of cover. Now this obviously, it has no AP or extra damage in this one, but I think there are some models out there, like certain assassins, where it's like, oh, you can only hit them on 6s, and if they're in cover they get +3 cover and all this kind of crap. So, again, if you were struggling with assassins, then taking something like this on a Headhunter Warlord, you'd be able to just get rid of them, because once you take away those kind of tricks, they probably don't have much of a save to fall back on. I think they've got like a 5+ invulnerable save or something. So that's pretty good. But really, I'd go for the Viper's Bite, and I would just shoot down all the annoying support characters. It's really good, I think. Then you've got Master of Diversion. This is a really solid one. Again, there's so many good Warlord traits. I would want this one really in every game too. It's perfect. At the start of the first battle round, before the battle begins, select up to 3 other friendly Alpha Legion units on the battlefield, remove those units from the battlefield and set them up again, following the usual rules for deployment. And if you redeploy a transport model, then all units embarked inside it remain embarked inside it. So basically you just deploy your army, and then you can just decide that you can choose 3 units and pick them up from anywhere and move them anywhere. Now, this is amazing because a lot of other people who have this rule have to roll a d3, and it might end up only being 1 or 2 units that they can move. But this is just a guaranteed 3. Just a guaranteed 3, which is incredible. You can use it in a couple of ways. You could purposefully false deploy, put units purposefully in an area that you don't really want them, just to make your opponent think that you're maybe taking a hard flank, and then in reality you just move them because you didn't want those units there anyway. It can be used for your opponent counter deploying against you if you're trying to set up some heavy guns, some tanks, some Havocs, whatever it is, and then your opponent counter deploys and goes on the other end of the table. You can just move those things so your opponent can't counter deploy. Same for charging. If you're trying to set up some good combat routes, and your opponent again counter deploys to be away from those combat units, you can just move those combat units. There's so much great stuff you can do with this. It's a really powerful ability. It's something I'd use every game without question. Cult Leader, when resolving an attack with a weapon by a model in a unit of friendly Alpha Legion cultists while within 6 inches of this Warlord, an unmodified wound roll of 6 has an unpenetration of -1 basically, because he improves it by 1. They have no minus, so it's just basically cultists within 6 inches on wound rolls of 6 become -1. If you are running a cultist horde army, then I guess it's good, but personally that's not something I would do. And even if you were running a cultist horde army, I think that you'd still be served better by something like Master of Diversion, where you could redeploy those blobs of cultists potentially to make sure they're really where you need them, or again Headhunter for this character to hide within those blobs of cultists and just shoot out of them. So it's okay, but I feel like even if you are running a cultist horde, there's still probably other more useful Warlord traits. And then the last one is Faceless Commander. Once per battle at the end of your movement phase, you can move this Warlord from the battlefield and set them up again within 3 inches of a friendly Alpha Legion infantry unit and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So basically, if there's an Alpha Legion infantry unit anywhere else on the board, you can just pick up this character once per game and deploy them within 3 inches of that Alpha Legion unit, but not within 9 inches of enemy models. So it's a good, if they're, you know, maybe somewhere you don't want them, if they're ahead and they're getting injured or something, you can just take them away, put them back on the back of the board near an infantry unit you held back, or it's a good way to just sort of deep strike them up the table if they don't have the deep strike rule. You know, if you had a unit pushing forwards, you could just move them straight there. It can work on a Demon Prince. It's a good way to just blip a Demon Prince right across the table. You know, no chance of it getting shot down. Just hide it at the back somewhere behind a building and then move your infantry forward. Your opponent don't know which infantry unit you're going to choose, and then poof, he just appears 9 inches away ready to charge or something. This is great. It's really useful. There were some shenanigans. I think that it either doesn't work anymore or it got FAQ'd or 9th edition ruined it, where you could sort of run this with the Alpha Legion character from the Vrax books, because he had an advanced deployment rule where he could just deploy himself, you know, 9 inches away from the enemy. And then he is obviously an infantry character, so you could use this to get, you know, another character right up by him and sort of slingshot yourself. Just, you know, turn 1 essentially, he deploys 9 inches away turn 1. You then use this to slingshot a Demon Prince or something into combat turn 1. But I think that in his new rules, they've taken that ability away from him and he can't advance deploy anymore. Because I'm pretty sure this doesn't work anymore. But that was something you can use for. I still think it's really useful. It's a good sneaky one. Yeah, it's a good sneaky one if you want to move your character around. Then the stratagems. Forward operatives from the Codex. 1 CP. You use it during deployment when you set up an Alpha Legion infantry unit from your army. At the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can move that unit up to 9 inches. It can't end its move within 9 inches of an enemy model. And if both players have units that can do this, then the player who's taking the first turn does it first. And you can only use this on each unit once per battle. So basically you can use it as many times as you like for 1 CP a time. Choose a unit or a bunch of units and they can all just move 9 inches before the game begins. Now if they're combat based, that could just be straightforward. If they're not, that could be in any direction. You could move them sideways, move them backwards. You know, if you've deployed something and you regret your deployment now, maybe you thought you had a good line of sight but you don't. Maybe you thought you were in a good place but you're actually in the open and your opponent is pretty much going to just shoot you. Using this, you can just move that unit behind out the way or something. But personally, when I was looking over the Alpha Legion, I just had, like I said with the Children of Bile, I had Berserkers come to mind because there's some really good stratagems in here that affect combat units. Now I know, and I'm not going to talk about it in this video, I know that the Alpha Legion, because of these things, is kind of the main way that people would run the possessed bomb, the big possessed bomb type deal, and a lot of the things I'm going to talk about are basically just what people did for that. But for me, I was just thinking about Berserkers, you know, being able to, if you had a couple of units of maybe 20 Berserkers, or in my opinion, just one, big blob of 20 Berserkers, use this on it, 1 CP, 9 inches forwards, absolutely brilliant. And there's other stratagems that I'll get to in a minute that really help it. Some other ways this was used, again with the possessed bomb, and I think that in 9th you can still do this, although they're not quite as helpful. You can basically use this on a unit like 20 Berserkers or possessed or something, plus a character. And what you do is you would actually have another, like a patrol detachment with some Nurglings, and you'd put the Nurglings, obviously they can advance deploy, you'd put the Nurglings in the middle of the board, or at least, you know, quite considerably away from your army, but you do them out of line of sight. So if there was some kind of structure, really anything, Nurglings are quite small, any kind of structure in the middle of the board, you would just advance deploy these Nurglings behind there, and then you would use forward operatives to put a character in front of this unit, in front of say the 20 Berserkers, and then you would, you know, spend 2 CP to move the character forwards 9 inches and the unit forwards 9 inches, but keeping the unit behind the character. The Nurglings would mean that the character couldn't be shot, because he's not, you know, as close as the Nurglings. And then you would use Conceal, which is the next stratagem I'm going to get to, for 2 CP, where an Alpha Legion infantry unit, until the end of the phase, enemy models can only target that unit if it is the closest visible target. So it's basically an abuse of the rule system. They can't shoot the character because the Nurglings are closer, and they can't shoot the unit of 20 Berserkers because the Alpha Legion character is closer. So it was, you know, that was a bit disgusting. I think they might have changed it now, so it sort of fixed it, so that doesn't work anymore. I haven't played many games of 9th, and I know that the rules for targeting characters did change between 8th and 9th. So the character targeting rules might now, I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, they might now mean that sort of thing wouldn't work, but it might still work. I'm not sure, honestly. I haven't played enough games of 9th. I've been in lockdown for over a damn year. But that's basically how people would use forward operatives and Conceal. It's quite disgusting. It might still work, might not, I don't know. But even if it doesn't, this is still so damn good. You know, Conceal, again, I'm thinking of like 20 Berserkers. The fact that they can't be shot, you can forward operatives from 9 inches. They can't be shot if you have anything closer. It's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You can still use this even again without abusing the sort of character rule. You could just forward operatives some other unit, some, you know, chaff type unit in front of them, and still have this work. So that's 20 Berserkers that are now 9 inches forwards and, you know, can't be shot. For return, you could use this on Obliterators, have a unit of 3 nasty Obliterators, and again, just bring them down somewhere behind some other infantry, behind some cultists or something. Can't be shot. That's just a horrible fire platform now that just can't be shot unless, you know, they kill everything that's in front of it. And the reason this is, I said this in the Iron Warriors video, the reason this is better than the cannon fodder is because the cannon fodder stratagem for the Iron Warriors, you choose one specific unit of cultists. For this, you choose the specific unit you're trying to hide, but beyond that, anything that's in front of it protects it. It's just if it's the enemy models can only target that unit if it is the closest visible target. So literally anything else in front of you will stop that unit from being shot at. It's really good. It's so good. Then you've got Sabotaged Armory, 1 command point. Use the stratagem in any phase before your opponent rolls to see if a vehicle from their army explodes. If any Alpha Legion units from your army are on the battlefield, anywhere, you can add 3 to that d6 and it can't be re-rolled. Now I don't know if it can be re-rolled anyway, because that might be something they did in 9th. I think maybe vehicle explosions aren't something you can re-roll anymore. But still, +3 to the roll, that essentially means it's going to blow up on a 3+, I think. So it's a 6+, 5+4 3+, yep, blows up on a 3+. This is absolutely epic, especially if you do it to a good vehicle that has a nasty explosion anyway, maybe even a Titan or something like that, you know, a Knight. But even something like a Land Raider, there's plenty of opportunities where somebody really doesn't want something to blow up in their lines. They've got a bunch of characters around it or something. This is epic for 1 command point, and it's so thematic too, the idea that they've sabotaged it so it blows up. It's brilliant. And that's something that I have to say about the Alpha Legion as well. I've said that they're my favourite in terms of the rules. I think they're very powerful and useful for strategic play. But also just from the standpoint of narrative, Games Workshop, as much as I complain about them, on this occasion absolutely nailed the sneaky, subterfuge, guerrilla warfare sort of tactics of the Alpha Legion just perfectly. This is, you know, one of the best examples of actually making an army feel the way that it's supposed to and just feel like you're playing Alpha Legion. I complained that, you know, the Iron Warriors, to me, I didn't feel like it was very Iron Warriors-y. But this one, you know, the Alpha Legion, it's incredible. This whole thing just makes for such a thematic army. It's amazing. So then you've got Scrambled Coordinates for 1 command point again. Lots of nice 1 command point stratagems. You do it in your movement phase when enemy is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements, but before it is placed on the battlefield, this unit must be set up more than 12 inches away instead of 9 inches. So basically, if somebody's planning to charge you, Alpha Legion, any Alpha Legion unit, anywhere on the battlefield, if somebody's planning to charge you with a big nasty combat unit, you can just spend a CP and say no, have to be 12 inches away, not 9. So, you know, they can't declare a charge over 12 inches. This could be Sanguinary Guard, you know, doing their big Descent of Angels 3d6 charge rubbish. This could be Genestealer Cults ambushing. This could be Thunderhammer Terminators. It could be anything. They can't do it 12 inches away, you know, and it's after they've already basically begun doing it. When an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements, but before it's placed on the battlefield. So they've already started at this point. You do this when they've already started to put, you know, to started the action. It's too late to take it back. And you can just say, no, it's 12 inches away, you can't charge me, and then in my own turn, I'll just shoot you or charge you or whatever. Absolutely brilliant. Not going to help you, obviously, if they're planning to shoot you. Unless they were planning to shoot you with a bunch of melter guns. Again, in that case, if they were planning to come down and melter you from 9 inches away, they're now out of range, which is brilliant. Could save a tank from being melted into slag. Massively useful for 1 CP. You'll probably use it every game. The only thing I'll say with the Alpha Legion is they're going to be so command point hungry, because there are so many good stratagems you're going to want to use every game, potentially even every turn. You're going to be so command point hungry. I think your best bet most games would be to take something like a Red Corsairs detachment, just to get those +3 command points for having like 3 units of 5 Chaos Space Marines. You know, because you're really going to want those. And I think that if you do take the Vrax specific character from the Forge World book, I think he gives you an extra CP because of a rule called Archvillain or something. So you might want to take him and some Red Corsairs, get +4 command points at the start of each game, because you're going to really want them for this army. There's so many good things you can spend command points on. Then you've got Renaissance Infiltration for 1 CP again. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 Alpha Legion infantry unit from your army that is more than 3 inches away from enemy models. So you can't do it for stuff that's, you know, tied up in combat, and you also can't do it for stuff that's arrived by reinforcements this turn. Remove that unit from the battlefield. At the end of your next movement phase, set that unit up on the battlefield again, anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from an enemy unit. And any models that can't be set up in this way are destroyed, and any models that are like this before the battle ends are, you know, destroyed. So basically, 1 CP, you can pick a unit up and redeploy it next turn. Any infantry unit, could be Khorne Berserkers, could be Chaos Space Marines, could be Havocs, could be Terminators, could be literally anything. The point is, you get to just pay a CP, pick it up, put it in reserve, and bring it back down next turn. This is one of those things where I'm saying it's amazing for not tactical objectives, secondary objectives and that kind of tactical play. Because, you know, so many tactical objectives are based on you just getting around the boards. Something like this, if you were planning to do something like, you know, deploy scramblers, or, you know, teleport home or something like that, this is incredible. You could just, you know, have them back here, turn 1, deploy scramblers, pick them up, turn 2, they're in the middle of the board, deploy scramblers, pick them up again, turn 3, deploy them at the back of the board. You know, that's all 3 scramblers done. Same for teleport homer. You know, if you need an objective over here, need an objective over there, you can just move them straight to the objective. If you maybe held an objective, you moved off it, but then something's happened and you need to get back there, you can just take them from anywhere they are on the battlefield, stick them straight over there. You know, you're not worrying about, can I run and advance that far? You know, I need to get back over to the objective that may be captured. Can I, you know, with my move and my advance move over the next 2 turns, can I even make the distance back there? Yes, you can. You can just pick them up and put them over there. It's brilliant. It's really going to help you. Ambush for 2 CP. Use this stratagem in your opponent's movement phase after an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements. Select 1 Alpha Legion unit from your army that is within 18 inches of that unit to shoot it as if it was your shooting phase. Now, this is amazing. Firstly, it's an Alpha Legion unit, not specifically an infantry unit, so you could do this with a tank if you wanted to. And again, I think a lot of other armies that can do this are able to do it at -1 BS. I think that's the case for pretty much all other armies that get to do this sort of thing. They can do it, but it's at -1 BS. For you, it's 2 CP, maybe instead of 1 CP for them, not sure. I think it's normally 2 CP anyway. But for you just choose an Alpha Legion unit within 18 inches and they can just shoot it as if it was your shooting phase. Now, firstly, you could obviously do this as well as scrambled coordinates. Somebody thinks they're going to get a good charge or something off against you. Scrambled coordinates, 12 inches away, no charge for you. Ambush, 2 CP, shoot it with whatever you feel like that's close by. Absolutely incredible. Or you could even do this defensively against 2 different things. If you've used scrambled coordinates to make sure one thing can't charge you, you can then use ambush against something else to try to shoot that unit and make sure that you just neuter it before it charges you. Absolutely incredible. Nobody wants this to happen to them. 18 inches is a decent range. The fact it's an Alpha Legion unit, not just infantry, potentially really useful to you. It's great. You know, again, something you're probably going to want to use every game. Then you've got Feigned Retreat, 1 CP. This stratagem is used in your movement phase. When you fall back with an Alpha Legion unit from your army, that unit can still shoot this turn. This is amazing. It's just so good. There's very few ways that Chaos are able to do this. It's something a lot of other armies have access to. Chaos don't really have the ability to do this. Being able to just fall back and shoot, it's absolutely brilliant. It's going to save your life probably every game. You know, whether somebody's just tagged your unit of Obliterators or Cult Havocs, or somebody, or you've got a big unit of Chaos Space Marines, whatever it might be. And this is just an Alpha Legion unit as well. It's not even infantry. You could do this on a tank. Somebody's tagged your tank or something. Oh, it's absolutely amazing. When are you not going to want to do this? You know, 1 CP every game, probably a couple of times every game maybe. Absolutely brilliant. You know, there's no point in me even trying to make it seem, you know, tactically inviting. Obviously, it's great. You can fall back and shoot. It's amazing. 1 CP. I'd love to be able to do that with my Iron Warriors and every other army. And then we are Alfarius, 1 CP again. This is epic. I would use this every game, no questions. You basically get to choose 1 extra Warlord trait. You know, obviously that's becoming more common now for other armies. Every codex in 9th, I think, so far, is able to spend up to about 3 command points to choose an additional two Warlord traits or so. This is just 1 CP for 1 extra Warlord trait, but it's brilliant. Again, right now in 8th edition, Chaos do not have many ways to do this, like some of the newer codexes do. This is just brilliant. And like I said before, there's multiple great Warlord traits. You know, I would take Master of Diversion probably every game, but I would also love to take Headhunter or Faceless Commander, Clandestine maybe. It's brilliant. There's, you know, a lot of really great ways you're going to be able to really theme up your army with 2 great Warlord traits. There's so much you can do. It's absolutely brilliant. You're going to do this every game, no question. Amazing. I think, yeah, like I said, personally, I'd go for probably Master of Diversion and either Headhunter or Faceless Commander, but it's up to you. And then the Relics. Drake Scale Plate, infantry model only. That's a shame because this is the kind of thing you'd like to put on a Demon Prince. Gives you a 2+ armor save, and when you lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, you get a 5+ feel no pain basically. So that's good. It's a shame it's infantry only, again, exactly the sort of thing you'd want on a Demon Prince, but still, if you had an infantry character that you wanted to give a 2+ save, it's okay. It's okay, I guess, if you had, you know, maybe a Power Armor Lord or something. Mind Veil, this is the kind of relic that I love because it's so unique and interesting. You know, anybody can say, oh, you can have a 2+ armor save. This is just so unique and interesting. It's a lot of fun. I'd probably go for it, you know, every game because why not? At the start of your movement phase, if a model with this relic is on the battlefield, roll 3d6. Until the end of that phase, that model's move characteristic is equal to the result. So between 3 inches and 18 inches, basically. And it can move across other models and terrain as if they were not there. And in the charge phase, it can move across other models other than buildings as if they were not there. And it can fall back and charge in a turn that it fell back. It's just amazing. 3d6 inch movement. You can ignore models and terrain for that movement. You can ignore models for charging. So, you know, if somebody's shielding their character, you can just move over those models and get the character. And you can fall back and charge in the same turn. And you can give this to a Demon Prince. You can give this to a Demon Prince. This is incredible. This is like one of the best relics I've ever seen. It's absolutely amazing. You know, the uses are endless. This would be horrific for anybody to deal with. It's absolutely amazing. You've got the Hydra's Whale, which is a once per battle relic. I'm not a fan of once per battle things, but it is pretty good. If a model with this relic is on the battlefield, it can activate the Hydra's Whale. Until the end of that battle round, when your opponent spends command points to use a stratagem, roll 1d6. On a 4+, your opponent must spend 1 extra command point. So, you know, somebody spends 1 CP, you roll a dice, on a 4+, it costs them 2 CP, or they want to roll, you know, spend 3 CP, you roll a dice on a 4+, it costs them 4 CP. It's good. The trouble with this sort of thing is you never really know what your opponent wants to use in any given turn, and if you were to use this, your opponent might just say, well, I'm not going to bother using many stratagems this turn then. It's something that you'd kind of have to know your opponent and know your opponent's playstyle, or at least the army's playstyle, and kind of know that, like, okay, it's this army, it's this turn, they're going to want to use these stratagems in order to get these bonuses, because I'm already aware of what this army does. So I'm going to use this, you know, as my once per game thing to maybe make it a bit more harder for them. Because of course, if it did make them, you know, if it made them spend a CP that they couldn't afford, then they can't use the stratagem. You know, if they had only 1 CP left or 2 CP left, and this stratagem paid off and turned that into 2 or 3 CP, and they didn't have that many left, they just wouldn't be able to use the stratagem at all. So it could be okay. But, you know, it's not my favourite. Viper's Bite, I talked about. Hydra's Teeth, I talked about already. So the last one is the Shade Blade, which replaces a Power Sword or a Force Sword. And it's +1 strength, AP -3, damage D3, so it's a decent sword. And you subtract 1 from the hit roll against the bearer in, again, either shooting or combat. So it's just another -1 to hit. Again, you know, before you'd be able to stack it with Clandestine to get him to -2 to hit in combat, but you can't do those kind of stacks anymore. And it does work in shooting or combat, by the way, even though it's the Shade Blade and it's a close combat weapon. It does give him -1 to hit against shooting attacks as well. So, you know, it's really useful. I think it's, you know, it's a good sword anyway, and being -1 to hit in shooting or combat, it's always a great ability. I think this is a solid relic. I definitely take it. It's something that, again, I'd have, you know, probably stacked before. You know, if you could before in 8th edition, you could have had a character with Clandestine -1 to hit, Shade Blade -1 to hit, Legion trait -1 to hit, Miasma of Pestilence -1 to hit. So you could have got potentially, you know, -4 to hit on a single character potentially, which is nonsense, but you could have done it. Can't do it anymore. Can't do it anymore, but it's still definitely a good relic to have on somebody just for -1 to hit. That's it for the Alpha Legion. Like I said, I think they're one of my favourites in terms of the rules. I think they've got some incredible rules. They're really tactical, really flexible. They're going to be great for secondary objectives and just really playing tactically, playing the mission. And they're really great in terms of the theme as well. They did a really great job making this a really thematic army, making it really feel like it's a different play style if you were to play this compared to, you know, Iron Warriors or World Eaters or Emperor's Children or Wire Bearers and Nightblood. You know, you'd really feel that this is a different army. And I'm worried about, you know, obviously we're going to lose this completely when the new Chaos Space Marine Codex comes out. You'll probably be back down to your 1 Warlord trait, 1 Relic type deal with your, you know, your Legion trait, 1 Warlord, 1 Relic, 1 Stratagem. And that's going to be a shame. That's going to suck. We're going to lose all this nice stuff, but that's just how it is. Maybe, you know, 2 years or 3 years after they release the Chaos Space Marines Codex, we'll get some other, you know, Traitor Legion supplement like they tend to do right at the end of each edition. You know, you've got Traitor Legions at the end of 7th, you've got Faith and Fury at the end of 8th, maybe just, you know, about a month before 9th ends, we'll get some kind of Traitor Legion supplement for the Chaos Space Marines. But for now, thank you if you've watched this. I hope that it was, you know, informative, despite, again, being content that's, you know, years old at this point. You know, leave comments if you've got any questions or disagreements or whatever, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. I think I've only got the World Eaters and Emperor's Children to go, so not too far now. Thank you and goodbye.